Williams, a former teacher, administrator, and co-owner of the first full-service Zimbabwean restaurant in the United States. He was elected to the Durham City Council in 2021 and sworn in as mayor in 2023. While serving on the City Council, Mayor Williams applies his experience, passion, and commitment to addressing deep social issues to make Durham a united community that provides safety and prosperity to all. This week's guest on Doing Justice Brings Joy is Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's Doing Justice Brings Joy. The mayor will be with us in a minute, but I do want to update you a little bit on the news while we wait. First of all, it's been one heck of a week, and it's been a ride. It's only been 18 days, but it seems like 18 years with all the changes that have gone on. This has been really a rocky week. Federal employees were put on leave, told they had to retire, take a retirement, or face termination. But the people have won this week. Thousands and thousands of people showed up in Washington, D.C., and spontaneously at capitals across the state and across the United States, protesting the coup of our government by Elon Musk. Let me say that all comments I make on this site are mine and mine alone, and are not associated or affiliated with any organization or group that I may be associated with. But there were victories for the people across in pushing back, in stopping, and slowing down some of the initiatives that were taken this week. Some things did not stop. We had refugees, people at over 3,000 people who work for USAID lost their jobs this week. Many nonprofits, including those here in Durham that assist refugees who are legally here, they are legally in the United States. Those offices had to lay off people. So we're starting to see the trickle-down effect of these orders and in the Durham community and across our state. 70% of the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services budget is federal. 70%. And I see we have in our studio Mayor Leah Williams. We're so happy to have you, Mayor. And we look forward to our conversation. First, welcome to Doing Justice Brings Joy. And thank you for coming and sharing with us your opinions today.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Stella. It's my pleasure to be here. You make me think of something because I can tend to be a bit honest. The comments that I share are not in my formal capacity, but in my realist mode of being a resident. So I look forward to being on with you.
Thank you so much. I was just sharing with the folks about the financial impact of many of these executive orders on state government. Are they having an impact, and nonprofits? Are they having an impact on our local government?
Well, absolutely. Well, first of all, before we even get into the financial impact, there's an intellectual, or matter of fact, there's a psychological impact that we're experiencing simply because the news media on both sides of the aisle has become so market based and so um, drama driven that
Mhm.
it's become a blind weakness, and it's they are addicted to dramatizing things, and when your addiction can be identified, then it becomes your weakness. And so what President Trump is doing right now is he is overflowing the media with their addiction, and that is drama. That is the multiple executive orders, and he wants us to believe and think that he is the dictator that he's always aspired to be. But what we have to remember is first, peace be still, be calm, hold on, hold the line first and foremost. And what that looks like is first understanding that executive orders have an expiration date. These
Mhm.
are they're 90 days long. He has not proven that he can legislate with a dang. You know, um, Now what we have to do is not respond and react to every single thing that's coming out, but be resilient and really lean into our consistency in what we can control and how we take care of one another. Now, he stopped the funding for USAID. That's not something we are talking about as much because we're talking about immigration. Don't be distracted. Immigration is a really big thing,
Mhm.
but just as big is this USAID because the Triangle, unlike most metro areas, we have a significant amount of workforce that is funded by USAID. FHI 360, their office is right across the street from where I live, downtown Durham. They are slashed. Their budget is slashed. NIH, for Christ's sake, NIH, the National Institute of Health, right in RTP. RTI, which everybody knows RTI in their work, slash 30%. So I'm working on a resolution with all of the mayors in the Triangle to uh, to really stand in solidarity about the nearly 2,000 jobs that are well-paying
Wow.
jobs that do amazing work that are right now frozen and they're in limbo, and they're being offered, a resignation, a termination by Elon Musk of all people. But thankfully, a judge has state that blocked that. Well,
I
an
had no
injunction.
idea there were 2,000 jobs just impacted by USAID funding in the trial. 2,000.
Right here locally. Right here locally. Yeah, and these are well-paying jobs, so you best believe it's going to have an impact on our local economy. These are families.
It's it's overwhelming to think that we're now adding the pressure of those families who majority of whom were homeowners in our community. They're going to be facing financial stressors over the next 90 days, no matter the outcome. Any temporary ripple can become a wave in your personal life. So,
Not only are they worried about their jobs, they're worried about their child's education experience because the
mhm,
Department of Education is under attack as well. Um, what's a little annoying right now is that the state government is trying to replicate what's happening at the federal level. So now we have a Doge committee in the state legislature, a department of government efficiency. There's nothing efficient about it. Michelle Obama said it best. This man wins. It won't matter your class, your color, your creed, your culture. It does not matter. It won't even matter the county you live in. If you're not someone that he looks at as an equal, you will not matter. And
right.
we're living that out truer than ever.
And that brings me to what are your concerns as a leading former educator, but a highly decorated educator and administrator? What are your share with the folks what we need to be concerned about related to educational excellence and the strengthening public education, because it appears that public education is being attacked at the federal and the state level. How can we um, buttress for the storm?
Yeah, so that's a beautiful question. Buttress for the storm. I want to go back to No Child Left Behind.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, when No Child Left Behind, when No Child Left Behind came about, I remember as a music student, they uh, they stopped funding our program because they needed to focus on science, technology, engineering, and math. And I remember my favorite class was home economics because they would cook in that classroom, and I could not wait till my friends, they would go through this portion where they would cook in school, and they needed people to, test the food out, and how I couldn't wait. But it taught us how to become independent. It taught us how to be self-sustainable. It taught us life skills.
Mm-hmm.
All of those programs were cut when No Child Left Behind came. And that was the beginning of the deterioration of educating and nurturing the whole person, the whole child, the whole student. And so from there, what happens? We continue to invest in STEM because the rationale was, well, we have to respond to the demand of the workforce and the
Right.
job market. That was the rationale. So it was a choice to start deteriorating our education system. The choice could have been values based and said, we're going to respond to the workforce, but we're also going to continue to recognize that it's more than just the workforce. We need to educate and build people. So that brings us to today. I am a firm believer as a two-time teacher of the year, former administrator, former consultant, former, nonprofit head that led the largest nonprofit for public schools in the state.
That's right.
I am a firm believer that the way you shape the future is through education.
That's right.
And right now, education is the most disrespected federal agency of the entire administration. To put a WWE wrestling executive, I mean, you might as well just go get the guy sitting on the corner somewhere, because they're not taking it serious. And then I relate it to, and this could be a bit controversial what I'm about to say, but I think there's merit here. You look at Alabama and Mississippi and Louisiana, the poorest states in the nation, and how they religiously vote against their conscience. Well, what else is struggling in those states? Education.
Education.
So ignorance has become a currency. Ignorance has become a political currency. And I think that this is intentional. You market to what someone you market to what someone wants to hear and feel. Like, oh, it's gonna be parents' choice. Well,
Right. So
I'm a parent.
if your parent chooses to be for you to be ignorant, then that's what you're going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a parent. I'm a former educator, but I pay Duke University to educate my child. You know, it's it's we got to get out of the marketing of messaging and get into the substance of survival. Literally,
But what people fail to understand is that a holistic education is required in a global society. And what we are, and when the southeastern states, North Carolina was and Virginia were the first southern states to really have a diversified and commitment to education. And that commitment um, was, I've got this new phone and I don't know how to cut it off. It's so sad. And when I say it's brand new, I mean like I'm not even sure where the power button is.
is it an iPhone or Android?
It's an Android.
Oh, I
Um,
can't help you.
oh, I got it, I think. But you know, education is what brings prosperity. And
Yes.
in a global environment where people, and it's not just tech education. One, you know, I'm a little gray. Well, I'm old enough to be your mama, and I know that because you and Danielle were in college together at NCCU. Um, but I fought for vocational education. It wasn't just home economics that left. It was carpentry. It
Yeah.
was being an electrician, brick masonry, all these skills that don't require a 4-year education, but require a full skill-based learning, right? That that are jobs that are 50, 25 to $50 an hour, depending on where you are. Electrical linesmen make $100,000 a year, and it only
Yeah.
requires a high school education and the skills that you learn in
Yeah.
vocational or technical education. But
Well,
all that was
yeah.
taken out of the high schools. And then when you take away the trades and then you take away culture, right? There's a reason we don't see any bands anymore, because
Right.
bands started in garages that started in the music that they learned in high school. That's why there's so many solo artists and so few
Yeah.
bands that are not 80 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. And the thing is, um, when they took those, think about it. We took away the trades
Mhm.
out of high school. And guess what? Now we have a statewide shortage in plumbers, a statewide shortage in electricians. I mean, it's marine welders. You're getting
All
two hundred
this is
thousand dollars. Like it is, and so what's happening is the community colleges are having to fill that role. So the community colleges have the agility that the university 4-year traditional institutions don't have, and they're making up and replacing what was taken away from our K-12 schools. And so that's why community college is so important. However, our values are loud and clear. You can go to the community college, get a trade for like $2,500 a year for 2 years, and you're set. You're gonna come out making six figures. However, um, we're paying about $32,000 a year to incarcerate rather than 2,500 to educate.
Come on, say it again there. Say it
Yeah,
again.
that is a problem. That is an American first world problem. For the life of me, I just don't understand why that is okay. Like, let me say it out loud again.
Say it aloud.
You can go to a community college and get educated for about $2,500, or take advantage of the programs we have in Durham where we pay you to go and get a certificate, versus the state paying, or the taxpayers paying private prisons, $32,000 a year to incarcerate.
And Mayor Williams, talk about how they target our children by grade
In
3
third grade.
to build their private prisons.
Yep, exactly. That is it is that simple. At third grade, we look at reading scores. I shouldn't say we, because I do not believe in this, but by the third grade, reading scores are assessed and prisons are built based on those trajectories. That's why education is so important. Education, it's amazing how we've cut the resources in education, but we are using education as a resource to define the growth and development of so many things that are not conducive to the decent quality of life for individuals in our community.
And talk about this switch from public education to vouchers and the impact that has on um, children of color. Do they have, is it positively impacting them? What does it do to the remaining students in the public schools when you divert so many resources to people who have chosen to pay for the education? Then they ought to pay for it. We shouldn't. So kind of
Yeah.
share where
So
that works.
this is also probably another controversial perspective. But like I said, I want to be honest here because I think these issues get political and they tend to divide between Democrat and Republican. But I think that there needs to be some mirrors placed in the room for us Democrats as well. I'm a Democrat, folks.
Say it.
Um, you know,
We
uh,
say truth on this. This is about truth.
yeah.
This is
So
say it.
the reality is, you're gonna be very hard pressed to find any other person that's more of a public school proponent than myself. But I'll be the first to say that our public schools have failed our young black boys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're at the highest total. We're at the highest of the totem pole when it comes to disciplinary infractions. We're at the lowest when it comes to academic proficiency. As a matter of fact, Hispanic kids are coming in and surpassing us. Now, when you look at a school's academic proficiency and how we actually perform, just take a second and look at the community where the school is as well. You'd be amazing how they are absolutely identical. So the schools that have the lowest proficiency usually are in the most impoverished and crime-stricken neighborhoods. So therefore, when people say local government doesn't have anything to do with this education system, that is a lie
Say it
because
again, Mayor. Say
we
it
shape
again.
the environment in which those
That's
schools
right.
are functioning. When I was teacher of the year, the first time, I had not been teaching long enough to compete on the district level. So what they did was they honored me by putting me on the selection committee. And it was myself, Matt Sears, he was teacher of the year that year. And hey man, how's it going? And some other folks. And we went around, thank you. We went around the county, and I could not believe that I was in the same county. I went to one school in East Durham, and I went to another school in North Durham, and I was like, these are two different worlds. One school had buckets in the hallway, the ceiling was leaking. They had a teacher bouncing classroom to classroom, and a teacher assistant helping her out. Two classrooms. And then in the north side of the county, we had about five parents per classroom volunteering their time with the teacher and the teacher assistant in one single classroom. So the adult ratio was almost 2 to 1, adult to student ratio, 2 to 1. Whereas the other one, the adult ratio was like, two adults to, I believe, 45 kids at the time. This is the same county where the taxpayers are supposed to go evenly distributed. There's something wrong with that picture. But you look at East Durham and how East Durham had been a little neglected. So that's the first thing. We have to acknowledge that in our public school system. The second thing
But
is,
we also have to acknowledge that that's also a role of both the city government in terms of infrastructure and support and
exactly. Yep,
housing, and also a function of the county commissioners and the public and their role and with the social services. It's a combined. It requires
that's my point.
all
Yeah,
points of government to
yeah,
make
and
that.
that's my point. So when people say the city needs to stay out of education, no, the city has a very significant role in the environment that kids are educated in.
Mhm,
So we need to take care of that brick and mortar, that housing, that infrastructure, that transportation, the way the school is supported in that community, as well as that community. That's the first thing.
mhm,
Um, and also when it comes to vouchers specifically, we're using the rationale that these vouchers can give parents choice. They can take their kid out of the school that's not working for them and
mhm,
place them somewhere else that is working. But the problem with that is they're taking the tax dollars away from the schools that are supposed to help solve the problem.
mhm,
But then when
mhm.
the kid doesn't work over there, they send the kid back to their neighborhood school,
Come
but the
on.
money doesn't come back with them.
What? The
Yeah,
money
that is
doesn't go back?
North Carolina schools are funded based on per pupil spending, per
Okay.
student spending. Each child comes with a set allocation to
Right.
support that overall school. If
Right.
a parent takes that voucher that only pays for a portion, not all, that
Mhm.
opportunity scholarship, that child gets to go to another school, wherever the parent can get them in, not another public school, but a private or charter school. Charter schools are public, but like a private school if they want. So parent choice, right? Don't be misled by the title. They get there. Let's say it doesn't work out because their kid might be the problem or the parenting might be the problem. And
Right.
that school has a choice to say, you got to go. The public school doesn't have a choice to say you got to go. The
Right.
public school has to take them. But when they go back, that money doesn't come back with them. So that loophole is allowing us to defund education. That money leaves when a child leaves. When a child comes back, the money doesn't go back. But guess what? That school keeps that money. So now you're funneling money out. This is illegal. What I think, it's not illegal,
Wait,
but it should be. It's definitely
it's
unethical.
unethical.
Yeah,
It's unethical.
yeah.
Now I'm this is deep and new, and you know when something new to me is I gotta understand it. Okay, so kid is the money transfer in July for the kid to go to um, private school A, and the kid stays there until the end of October, and they were like, "You gotta go because you can't stay here. You're not fitting into our program." And so we sent what $4,500 amount
Yep.
to that school, but
Keep
he's
in mind, Miss Stella, keep in mind, a lot of these schools, let's say there's a 4,500 follows that kid, and let's say they get an opportunity scholarship of $5,000, right? Oh, well, I get $5,000 and send my kid to whatever school I want, but the tuition might be $20,000. Now we have an equity issue, and now we have the haves and the have-nots.
Mhm.
So you get the opportunity scholarship, and then the school might give you enough tuition support to take care of your first year. They get that opportunity scholarship money of $5,000, whatever it may be. It could be arbitrary or whatever. They get that money. Let's say that kid goes back. Well, then the scholarship they gave, they can just write that off and just say, "Well, we're putting it back in our general fund." But they definitely got that $4,500 or $5,000 from the state, the public's dollars. And that kid goes back without that money. So now you have, let's say you have a high school of 1,000 students. They lose 200, and that $200 worth of funding, that 200 students worth, that funding worth 200 students, leave them, right? But let's say 100 of those students go back. Now that school budgeted for, 800 students, but they have 900.
900.
Then you got to
So
cut through
now
arts
you have,
programs.
this is where these deficits, so this is where part of this
Yes.
deficit that Durham Public Schools is experiencing is coming from.
Well, it
It's
could
a
lead to more
portion of
deficits.
it. It's a
Yeah,
portion.
right. It can lead to more deficits. So now the school system is trying to figure out how they're going to make up for what they don't have. It's a financial crisis. And so the elected officials have to be really careful as well about the promises they make. You can't make promises on things you don't control. The school
Right,
system is not a school board doesn't tax. It's a non-taxing governmental body.
right.
So they just have to be careful about what they promise the community. Um, the community is going to have to understand, especially when it's circumstances beyond their control. So it's good we have folks that care, but we really are being set up by the state to do a lot of infighting and harm each other and harm the industry and harm the teachers and students as well.
So, Mayor Williams, the City of Durham's Parks and Recreation Program operates a before and after school um, program of sorts. Is that funded with school board money or is that city funds?
So parks it's it's a little all over the place. We have programs that we fund through our Parks and Rec department, right? And then you have 21st Century, which we hopefully stays around. But you have the
Is that a
21st Century
federal
program.
grant?
It's a state. I'm not sure what the funding source. I know it may be, but I know it's definitely supported at the state level and allocated at the state level. But I
Okay.
think it may be a federal grant that the state gets.
Mhm.
Be that as it may, the 21st Century program, which is where I used to work, I used to create curriculum for those programs, write curriculum for those programs. Um, they have those at some schools, at many schools, where it's before and after, and it's really supportive of families that need to get their kids in earlier or pick them up later. But it's also extending the learning, extending the school day for those kids.
Mhm.
So we have those. I'm looking to actually reimagine our Parks and Rec Center our not Parks Rec Center, but our recreation centers. I am one to believe that our schools should be community centers, and I'm one
Mhm.
to believe that nonprofits that are doing life saving work for our children should not have to struggle on rent. So
Right.
why
Say
not
that
let
again.
our
Say that again,
yeah,
Midway.
it should not be hard to save a life in this city. It just shouldn't. And right now it's too hard. So why don't we reimagine how taxpaying dollars work? So open our rec centers and let them be the home of some of these nonprofits free of charge, or at least at $1. If we can lease land to a developer to build for us for $1, we can lease a space to a nonprofit for $1 to save these kids' lives and engage them in the center rather than on the streets.
I applaud that. I
That's in my
applaud.
budget request this year.
Thank you. And what other things are you envisioning to address the right now we seem to be in a youth um, crisis around violence, and a lot of that is around not having anything to not being directed in a positive direction.
It's a
What
it's yeah, it's a lot of things. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, what is your vision about how we address that?
So I've been on this rant, and I know it makes people feel uncomfortable, but I don't care. Um, we can't care about trees and bike lanes and aqua life more than we care about these kids. We just can't. And I don't think I'm being selfish when I think the number one priority for everyone in the city needs to be saving the life of a child. I just
You know, I'm
it's
gonna bounce back on you. I believe that saving the life of the child is a priority, and I believe that a safe environment where we have trees, we can provide the trees can provide shelter in the community, and it should be holistically done to
yes,
protect the lives. We need bike lanes, but we need sidewalks
yep,
that are safe. We need light street lighting in communities so that we shine light, and we need shelters. We need all of but the priority is why we're doing this is the child. I had a
yeah,
guest
and that's yeah, that's my
who
point. You
talked
know,
about that made the bike lanes and trees important to me. She lived in Florida. She grew up, and she had to walk a mile and a half, which is a problem, right? She had to walk a mile and a half to get the free breakfast and a free lunch. And on the shaded where the trees were over the sidewalks, the temperature was 10 or 15 degrees less, and it was a safe way for her to walk to get the food that she needed. It made those kinds of things meaningful because I knew it was part of that child's life. But
yeah,
that children
I
are
totally agree.
walking that children are walking to get free food and to participate in programs instead of
Yeah,
having um, free fare. I'm gonna hit you up for the free fare transit, having access to bikes that they can ride to get to those opportunities and necessities. Um, we,
yeah.
I am so appreciative of your child centered focus on how we build community in Durham.
And that is exactly it. I'm definitely not deprioritizing all of the things I named, the things you named. I think those things are very important. I just don't think that they are equally as important as
No,
the heartbeat of a child.
no.
And right now we're in crisis mode. Like I am very holistic when it comes to leading the city. Like I tell people, I want a holistic government. I want a proactive government, not just a reactive government. Yeah, there's some things we need to react to, but I want to be holistic in how we, build this city, and I want to be proactive in how we address some of our most challenging issues. But first and foremost, we are literally having kids die
Mhm.
right now. Somebody there was that we were at a council meeting, and I just remember sitting there, and I have to watch myself because I get emotionally triggered when it comes to our kids. But we had a report from our transportation department, and they said, He was really dramatic about it. He said, since January 1 of this year, we've had two people get hit and killed by a car. And the
Mm-hmm.
council was like, oh my God. They gasped. It's like, oh, we got to do something. And then I was like, wait a minute, we just put $200 million in on a bond on the ballot for a bond for street safety, parks, and sidewalks. We just put $500,000 into design work to reconfigure Mangum and Roxborough to be two-way. We just got 37 million from the federal government for Holloway Street corridor, as well as moving the Go Triangle Mobility Center to Durham. We also put 10 million into Hayti to better do the streetscape there. It's like we are putting investment there. But we've had at the time of that date, that report, we had 9 people shot and killed, all under the age of 24, and nobody had a dang on word to say. And then I started looking at the amount of money we're putting into it. Well, Bull City United is gone. It has challenges. Shot Spider is gone. We are still struggling with police, presence, and people are begging for more police presence. And then I thought about it. The resident survey that we used to rationale putting the bond on the ballot, the number two priority was sidewalks and streets. The number one priority was public safety. And
Right.
we totally ignored it. And what is happening? We're in crisis mode. And yet, nobody is saying anything. And then the reason why I get emotionally triggered is because during the conflict with Israel and Gaza, City Hall was shut down twice
Mm-hmm.
for the children who are dying in Gaza. And when that 2-year-old girl was shot and killed, right afterward, nobody had a damn word to say. No City Hall was shut down. Nobody came in waving flags. That I'm not okay with.
I'm not okay with that either. And I promise you, you're probably going to see a little bit more action around those issues because the the black community is more self-focused in
Yeah,
2025. I think election outcomes kind of hit us that we're not priority. Our community is supposed to be the point on the spear and lead people to victory. But when it comes to our our concerns, our issues, they're transient. They're not even commitments made to our community are openly rejected. When the black community rose up about the violence that we experience, that our people experience in the manner of George Floyd, all these um, all these communities made commitments to us, right?
yeah, temporarily, right?
But
Target.
they made what was it? Target made a $2 billion commitment to supply diversity. The first second, in fact, he hadn't even issued the DEI order before they were like
Gone,
gone. Okay,
gone.
gone. Google today is getting rid of its DEI its and is hiring goals for minorities. And it wasn't like we were even benefiting from the programs that DEI programs that were put in place for as a response to George Floyd. In fact, only 4% of DEI consultants are black. So getting rid of the program's not necessarily hurting us because we didn't really benefit from it, but it's sharpened the eyes and focus that it is us who is going to elevate us. It is us who is going to protect us, and and we. It's not that we're shunning allies, but you're not going to be able to dictate and say, no, that's not what we need right now. That's not what's going to happen in the future. So um, I think you're going to see more people. I think you're going to see more people stepping up and showing up when our children and our communities are at risk.
I hope so. And that's what that's this was the root. This was the root of my comments at the Durham Committee annual meeting.
Yes.
This is what I was talking about, and that's why I told a person that hates me with every fiber of her soul, and it
Yes.
can never tell you why. That's why I had to tell her I love her, because at the end of the day, I do, because that's the way we move forward. And that is why also I'm going back to the churches. I'm in a church every Sunday, a different one. Getting these churches outside of the four walls and getting them back into the civic domain so that we can stop being a product of everybody else's reaction.
That's right. That's right. Um,
And we have to make sure we're engaging, because I've seen a lot of black folks come into City Hall and they like to reference our ancestors like they owned our ancestors, and I'm like, you do know I'm black too, right? Like I'm your mayor. I'm also black. Like our ancestors this and our ancestors that. While you come and preaching a white agenda, like no.
I'm gonna, we reference in the city of Durham a lot um, a paragraph that W.E.B. Du Bois wrote about Durham.
Hmm.
But I'm going to encourage you and my followers, I'm going to encourage us to read the whole thing. Read the whole, not just that paragraph that's famous, but read the whole document about how, and the phrase I love, Durham was not afraid. Durham is not afraid. And how they discussed that what made Durham different from other Southern Black communities like Rosewood and others is that it had the right combination of Black economic power, Black intellectual power, and it had Black business power, businesses. And
Miss
so
Stella, yeah,
I'm
no,
going to switch you to talking about Zweli and talking about Black business support and the power of us collectively supporting and creating and empowering Black business ownership in
I
Durham.
just wanted to say real quick, I think that too much, especially our young black activist community, I think that we spend too much time in this social space
Mm-hmm.
and not in the economic space.
Mm-hmm.
Durham is what it I know a lot of people don't like, some people don't like it. When I say Durham is dope, in my generation, that means Durham is cool. And we have a lot of reasons why we're cool. But the fact of the matter is, Durham is what it is because we were an economic powerhouse. But
Mm-hmm.
we spent a lot of time advocating, and shouting and protesting about the social aspect of Durham. When we need to be out building our businesses, supporting our own, you know, um, I just we've gone away from it, and I'm also sick and tired of the conversation being shaped for us. As in, I'm talking about the black community,
Right.
but other community members shape the conversation for us to respond to. And when they talk about black people, they talk about poverty, they talk about homelessness, they talk about housing, they talk about incarceration. And yes, we are overwhelmingly represented in those areas, but we also have the capability of being overwhelmingly, present in
Mm-hmm.
economic space as well.
Come on.
So as we're getting into where we're going now about my lovely, beautiful boo thing wife, Zweli, that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to like, do our part to be this Black Wall Street that Durham is known to be.
And historically played that role until the 90s.
Yeah.
There was the economic wealth, uh, the economic wealth of our community, in terms of being able to access capital, and we still have our own places where we can go for
Mhm.
funds but we don't put our deposits in there.
Nope. Nope. It's my wife and I have 3 restaurants in Durham. 85% of our customer base is white. Barico Soul. They're about
Mm-hmm.
50%, white and other, Um, we have a few restaurants, but we can do nice things too. We can have nice things too. We just
Mm-hmm.
have to invest. You go to an Indian restaurant and then look inside. Go to
Mm-hmm.
an Asian restaurant, look inside. There's a really nice high-end restaurant called G58 Cuisine.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's speaking English.
Right.
It's all high-end Asian people speaking their native tongue. And I mean, I tell you, you are going to spend at minimum $250 in there
Mm-hmm.
for a party or two. And I'm like, why is it that every community can support their own, but we criticize our own? It baffles me. It baffles me.
We've been programmed that way,
Yeah.
that we're not as good, and we have to, what do the young people say, we have to decolonize our minds and
Yeah.
our activities. And if we're going to be talking about being pro black, then eat black, buy black, wear black, you know.
And there's variety in black. I
And
want
there's a
folks to
whole
know
lot
that.
of variety in
There's
black.
a lot of variety in black.
You know, you
So
don't
this is
have to
this is
go
not
to
to be
Target to do it.
right.
Um,
It's not to be anti-white or anti anything else.
it's
It's
not. This
to
is pro
be right.
us,
This is pro us.
and
You can,
I think that's where I think I've seen an awakening in the community. Uh, Reverend Jamal Bryant is asking us to go on a
40-day
40
fast.
days economic fast
Yep.
starting on March 5th.
Yep.
And he's given he and the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce, and I believe their gala is tomorrow night.
Yeah.
They are giving, the reason the economic fast does not start now is that they're giving Black entrepreneurs, Black businesses, Black suppliers time to get on an online platform so that we can buy direct. Um, on my
Yep.
LinkedIn, you'll find a list of Black farmers and produce providers who will ship you vegetables just like they would ship them to the store. One of the
We have a
things that
65
you
member. We have a 65 member Black Farmer Food Share network right here in the area.
mhm,
65 Black farmers.
and I was getting ready to shout out the space that Durham makes for the Black Farmers Market. Um, and so knowing that we have in Durham, I'm going to shout out, we have a winery, we have our own distillery, we have high-end restaurants, we have food trucks, we have every type of entertainment that is available, that you in recreational opportunities. We have, and you were part of, we have one of the most amazing music scenes um, in the country. And we just need to tap into our own excellence, support our own excellence, and um, maybe put effort into encouraging folks to come to our jazz festivals that we do and the other things that
Yeah.
we do here in Durham.
Yeah. 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 So, all right.
Well, now I want to know a little bit about the backstory of how your restaurant is the first full service Zimbabwean restaurant in the United States. That seems kind of amazing. When I
Yeah,
think
well,
about
yeah,
the diaspora, and I'm thinking, no, it had to be New York, right? But it's here in Durham. So
yeah.
tell me a little bit about that.
There's a first of everything somewhere, and we had no idea. We didn't have the idea of saying, "Oh, we're going to open the first Zimbabwean restaurant." We were looking for help because we did not know what we were doing. And that is why our restaurant is so homey or home-like, because we just wanted to serve food over a table and good conversation. And we made all the furniture ourselves.
Did
This guy
you?
named this guy named Tyrone had just gotten out of prison. He had a handy skill set, and so we had a bunch of wood. And this guy named Tom, um, they helped us build everything. My bar top, Donald Parker built that. Turquoise, Lejeune Parker that does the feeding program.
Yeah.
Uh, so basically, Tyrone and Tom, Zwilly and I, my mother-in-law, Donald and Turquoise, built that entire first Zwilly's kitchen.
Wow.
We built the entire thing, and basically, we were looking for help and couldn't find it, and so we reached out to tourism bureaus, uh, and we reached out to North Carolina Visit NC. Then we reached out to the National Restaurant Tourism Bureau, and then we reached out to the Diaspora Tourism Bureau, and it's like there are no Zimbabwean restaurants anywhere. The closest was a Zimbabwean chef who, a Zimbabwean chef who was serving, who was cooking at a South African restaurant in Charlottesville, Virginia, and it closed.
Mm.
Um, so when we opened, it was like, wow, you guys are the only ones. And there was a couple that reached out in Detroit that said they were interested because they couldn't find another Zimbabwean restaurant until we came on the scene. I don't know if they ever opened, but one did open with almost the same menu in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, about 3 years after us. But now we have three restaurants in Durham:
Hmm.
Zweli's Kitchen, Zweli's Cafe at Duke, and Zweli's Akaya, which is more of an elevated dining experience. And then we have a hotel and restaurant, boutique hotel and restaurant in Zimbabwe.
Oh, so you're
Yeah,
internationally now. Get out of here, Mayor Williams. Look at
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. So, but my wife is the jewel in this. They're all named Willie because she's the master chef and owner, and co-owner, and it's her. It's her thing. They're her flavors. She is an amazing creative.
So now you have a Zimbabwean restaurant in Zimbabwe. I can't
Yeah,
say it. Teeth are messed
yeah,
up.
Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's thriving.
It's doing well. It's called Sunset Views Lodge.
Look at there.
Yeah,
Now you know that now people. Y'all know y'all have to go to this restaurant that's American Durham based, Durham's own, when they go to Zimbabwe. And the people of Zimbabwe are eating that food like it's home because it's home food. So that
yeah,
tells you
yeah,
the level and quality of the food that they serve. Well, Mel
yeah.
Williams, I just want to tell you how much I have appreciated you spending time with me. Um, and I think of you as one of mine because I say anybody I fed their mind, and you were part of the class that Danielle was in when you got your music education degrees, and she got hers and her public policy degree. You all did good work over at North Carolina Central University. Shout out to the Eagles. Um, and that music program is one of the best programs in the country.
Oh
Um,
yeah, oh yeah,
and people
yeah,
need to know that it has a history in jazz. There's not just the Mary Lou Williams jazz over at Duke. There's competitive jazz at North
yeah.
Carolina
Well,
State.
the Dr. Haskins was a former music department chairwoman. She lived, but she's passed away now. She's my ex-girlfriend's grandmother, Quincy Tate. But she lived in what is that neighborhood? It's on the tip of my tongue. The Estates, not
Oh,
Inglewood,
on
but
Emery
Emory
Woods.
Woods. She
Hmm.
lived in Emory Woods Estates. Emory Woods Estates, and she was the chair of the Department of Music at NC Central. She was the first black woman to ever perform in Carnegie Hall in New York.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
there's so much history in that
So
department. You
much
know,
history.
John P. Key grew up
Yeah.
in Durham and Shepherd Hillside and Central. You know,
There's so much musical legacy. The North Carolina Central University had one of the top had a top 40 on the R&B list with the Bull City Party. That and they also had Rock Creek Park. They had two with Donald Byrd when Donald Byrd was a featured musician there. They did two albums, so and I still have my Bull City Parties and Rock Creek Park albums because they were that. So again, thank you, Mayor, for all you do for our people. And can I get one last thing from you? Is there anything you want to share before your message to the city on the 18th? Can you give me a little hint? Give us a little highlight.
you know, I'm an eternal optimist, and I am going to celebrate. Listen, factually, there are way more things positive going on in Durham than negative. And we have so much to celebrate, and I am going to celebrate it all. Um, this year, I'm going to be much more specific to just some wins that we've received. I'm going to be much more direct about our challenges. Um, I am going to make a direct ask of support from the community,
Mhm.
um, and I am going to, call some. I'm not going to call people out, but I'm going to call people to task. Because I think that we've lost our way, and we get so caught up in the political fight, so much in the political fight that we lose the focus of the actual political outcome. And I just won't stand for that. So it's going to be an amazing evening. It's going to be almost like a concert. We have
Woo!
performances this year.
I've
We
got my
have
Eventbrite tickets.
It is going to be amazing. Let me tell you, just just watch it. So it's
All
going to
right.
be an evening. It's going to be an even. It's going to be an amazing evening. I'm just
All
letting
right,
you know.
Dormites. Let's go to and that's is it at the Armory or the Convention Center?
It'll start in the convention center,
Okay.
the first hour, and then we'll end in the Carolina Theater where the address will take place.
All right, Dormites. Let's go. See you there.
All right.
Thank you again, Mayor Williams. We love you so
February
much.
February 18th. February 18th
February
at 6 p.m.
February the 18th. We'll be see
City
you
City.
there.
All right.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank
Well,
you.
folks.
Thanks for having me.
Well, folks, that is our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to make sure that this interview was replayed. I'm going to, so we've heard from City Council Person Deidreana Freeman. We've now heard from Mayor Williams. I'm going to try to get a member of the County Commission and I'm going to see if I can get the chair of the county commission on our show in future episodes. Um, just leave in the comments who else you'd like for me to interview, and I'll make shorts of some of their comments as we approach the budget season. So again, thanks everybody for participating and being part of um, doing justice brings joy. I love my city. I love my city. I love my city. We put in work. I love my city.